All right, guys, we are back in my garage for another video, and I'm installing a downpipe on the X7. I know. See, the thing about it is I really wasn't planning on doing anything to this car, but some things are just so easy. You basically could just drop a part in the engine bay and it could land in place and give you a bunch of power. So I figured, why not? You know, a downpipe pretty easy to install, and we got one from Bimmer Network. As always, I will have a link to them in the video description. They're a huge partner for the channel, so I appreciate everybody supporting them. But I'm gonna show you guys how to install this. It's definitely different from my 340i and 440i. I'm not gonna remove the intake or anything like that. We'll do everything from under the car, and it was relatively a simple process. So here's how you can install a downpipe on a BMW X5 or X7. Now, as always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future. So the first thing is we're going to jack the car up. I have all four wheels up in the air because I'm doing some other service at the same time, but really you only need to jack up the front of the car to do this job. Just make sure if your car has air suspension, you disable it before you jack it up so that it doesn't mess up the auto leveling. So here's how you do that. All right, so we're in the car now, and as you can see here, this is where your air suspension settings are. Now, the first thing I want to do is lift it up as high as possible just to make getting under the car easier, and jacking it up, it should make it a little less work to get it as high as you want. So we're going to go ahead and bump this all the way up to the highest setting, and it'll keep flashing while the car is lifting up in the air. And then once it's solid, that means it's all the way at the top. There we go. And then to disable it, we're going to hold this dial. You can push it up or push it down, but you hold it for 7 seconds, and then this will disappear. So let's do that. And boom, there it goes. So hold it for 7 seconds, release, and when this goes away, that means that your suspension is disabled and you won't have any issues with jacking up your car. Now, once you've disabled the air suspension, you've jacked it up in the air, this kind of illustrates my favorite part of working on this car. I'm kind of excited because look at how much room we have. You can already see the downpipe down in here. So I really feel like we're not going to have to remove that much. This should be a cakewalk. This is definitely one of the easier performance upgrades that we can do, and one of the nice things about the B58. So next we're going to grab our handy dandy step stool so we can actually see what we're doing. Step up here and then lift up the engine cover. It should just pull straight up. Wow. There we go. Now we can pull this out. And this is a dusty boy, but lots of room for activities. Now next we're going to unplug and disconnect these O2 sensors. We'll actually leave them screwed into the downpipe, so you don't need to remove it from the downpipe, but we'll unplug it so that when we pull the downpipe off, it won't break any wires. So you pop out this little tab right here, then squeeze it in and pull it out. If it's hard to pull out, sometimes it helps to push the connector in first, then squeeze this down, then pull. And then the same for this one. So pop out the little tab, squeeze it in, push, and pull. Beautiful. And then this connector is held onto here by like a little clip underneath. And so the way that you get that off is you use a pick tool. Under here, there's a little tab, and you're gonna put your pick tool on it and push it towards the back of the car, and it'll slide forward. So what it is right here, you're basically trying to pull this like over like that, and when you twist it, it gets it free from these clips. And then the same thing for this connector. There we go. So this one's just a lot smaller, but same thing. You're trying to basically wedge this down with your pick tool like that. So you pry this over and then it should slide off. And then these are kind of clipped onto the heat shield, so you can kind of see where this is going down here. So just slide them off of those clips so that when we pull the downpipe off, it doesn't get snagged on anything. All right, so now we are under the car. I think most DIYs will tell you to remove this stiffening plate right here. So this is a bunch of big bolts all the way around to remove it. I'm gonna try to do this without removing this plate. So wish me luck. But first things first is in here, we've got a couple things that we need to remove. One is we've got these two 13mm nuts that we need to take off right here. These are kind of holding the downpipe onto this engine bracket. So get your socket. There they go, these bad boys. So we're gonna get these removed by using your socket wrench and get those off. And then we also have the actual downpipe clamp, which you can see right here. So that screw is going through the V-band clamp and we need to back that off. So again, it should be a 13mm. Get your socket and reach it all the way in there and start twisting that to back it off, and it should loosen the V-band clamp. So this is kind of hard to show just because it's such a tight space. We're sliding in this little slot, but we're going up for these two nuts. You can see I've got one removed, and all you're doing is getting your socket up here and then fit it on the nut like this, and then slowly twisting it off, and eventually you'll get it all the way. So sorry I can't show you like a really good clip of this being done, but hopefully you get the idea of what we're doing here. All right, I'm calling it. I can't get to the actual V-band clamp on the downpipe because my socket wrench isn't long enough. So we're gonna go ahead and remove this stiffening plate. These are, I believe, 16mm bolts. So go all the way around and just remove all the bolts to drop this down. And then we've got a couple bolts back here, or screws that we need to remove. These are 8mm, so we'll remove those as well. Also, didn't realize, but there are some sunken in bolts too on the back that we have to remove as well. Oh my gosh, I thought I was going crazy. So there's also a bolt under here, and then I'm guessing under this cover. Yep, another bolt under here. So that's why this thing wasn't moving. I was losing my mind for a second. There we go. Now the whole thing's moving. Oh, and we've got so much more access to everything. Yeah, I should have just did this at the beginning. So now we're just gonna sneak up here, and you can barely see it, but that's our V-band clamp. And there's the nut we gotta remove. So get a socket wrench on there and back that off. Now just for reference again, so this is where the downpipe goes up, and you can see where my socket wrench is. But if you come forward a little bit, you can actually see where the downpipe clamp is. And then if you come a little bit more in front of like the steering rack, you can reach up here and touch it. So this might give you a little bit better of an angle. Just kind of do what works best for you. But once you remove that stiffening plate, there's a lot of different ways that you can come at it. But for the main work, I fit my hand up here, and then we're just turning that nut to loosen it up. So just take your time with it. Oop, where are we? There we go. take your time with it. Like I said, if you need your hand to reach up over in front of the steering rack to kind of stabilize this, or get a better angle on the V-band clamp to get this right on there, feel free. That might make it a little bit easier. Now we've got the downpipe loosened. Again, looking through our little access hole, you can see the V-band clamp and everything is loose. You might need to pry it a little bit because I didn't loosen the bolt all the way. As you can see, it's still on there, but once it's backing off to where it's spinning a little more freely, you should be able to get your hand on this part and just kind of try to twist it around, pry it around until it breaks free, and then it'll be loose like this, and that means that it's off of the downpipe. Now coming back down, we've just got 2 more bolts to remove. So one is of course on the clamp on the exhaust. Mine is pretty rusty, so I'll probably replace this, but this is a 1/2 inch nut. And then down here on the catback, there's another one. So we're gonna remove this 1/2 inch nut as well, and that will allow us to drop the catback and kind of separate it from the downpipe so we can actually pull it out. All right, so weird chain of events, but that bolt completely snapped when I went to remove it. And of course I turned off the camera and forgot to turn back on the recording. So unfortunately, you get to miss that piece of the story, but we'll remove this one as well. And separate the downpipe from the midpipe. There we go. All right, and then the downpipe should be able to come off. You might have to mess with the V-band clamp a little bit to get it the rest of the way off the turbo. Yeah, I think I need to loosen the V-band a little bit more, and then we should be able to get it. There we go. And everything comes out with it. All right, so here we've got the side-by-side. The old downpipe is on top, and the new Bimmer Network downpipe is on bottom. And keep in mind, this Bimmer Network downpipe is 4.5 inches, so there are some bigger ones out there on the market, but they have a pretty good theory that I like, because the way that the downpipe is sized, you can see it basically starts at the stock turbo outlet size, and then it only tapers down to go to the midpipe. The bigger ones typically kind of bubble up and then come back down. And when it gets bigger, effectively that can slow down your exhaust gases, which is kind of a no-no. In terms of exhaust stuff, generally speaking, you want it to get out, evacuate as much as possible, flow as freely as possible. So this kind of helps maintain and accelerate the speed of the exhaust gases leaving the turbo versus a downpipe that kind of bubbles up. Especially that would be the case if you use the stock downpipe and just kind of punched out the cat, then you know, you're making this big open cavernous hole where exhaust gases can expand and slow down. So I do like this design. I will have a link to it in the video description if you guys are interested in buying. It fits Gen 1 and Gen 2 vehicles. So it's just a really nice, simple upgrade. So now at this point, what we're going to do is remove these O2 sensors and transfer them over to the Bimmer Network downpipe. Make sure you keep the same sensors in the same position. So this is your upstream 5-pin O2 sensor, and this is your downstream 4-pin O2 sensor. Just make sure you keep them in the same spot. And remember, these are very, very sensitive, so just be careful with how you're handling them. You definitely don't want to drop it or bang it around too much. So we'll just place it down gently. Get this ugly thing out of the way and drop in this beauty. There we go. And then the new ones just thread right in. Now again, if you mix these up, the easiest way is to check on the pins. So if you look in here and you see 4 pins, that's your 4-pin downstream O2 sensor. If you look in here and see 5 pins, or you see, 5 wires going into the connector, then you know this is the 5-pin upstream sensor. So once you've got them seated, we'll go ahead and torque them down. Now we're ready to reinstall it in the car. Like usual, everything is just the reverse of install. Oh, and one more thing, of course, I can't forget, you need to put a new gasket in the downpipe. I bought a new one from FCP Euro, but you can buy it from anywhere, your local dealership or whatever. I'll have the part number in the video description. Technically, you can transfer it over from your old downpipe to the new one, but it's just a good idea to replace it, and especially because you don't want any exhaust leaks, I like to just buy this cheap gasket, place it in here, and boom, now you'll have a nice leak-free seal between the downpipe and the turbo. All right, now let's go ahead and put it on the car. Now I'm under the car and I did a test fit, and it's a little bit tight on the left side to the transmission, especially to like this bracket right here. And so I'm just gonna remove that, especially because the new downpipe doesn't have those, like that bracket that mounts up onto here. So there's an E14 bolt down here, and then there's one all the way up there. So I'm gonna remove those bolts, take the bracket off, and then put the bolts back in, and that'll give me a little more clearance to line it up and get it clamped onto the turbo. All right, and here it's all lined up. Got the clamp reinstalled. I did find completely removing that bolt and starting with the clamp on the downpipe, then fitting it onto the turbo seemed to fit a little bit easier. It's still a little bit of a fight just because it's so blind. And again, you can reach your hand, where's it, up here in front of, I think I said this was the steering rack before, but this is like the half shaft from the front differential. You can reach up there and access everything. You can kind of see my finger right there. Hi. So yeah, use both hands, get the clamp on there, start the bolt to get everything tightened down, and then we'll work our way back, reseat the mid-pipe and everything, and get all of this clamped on so it's just like stock. All right, and just like that, we've got it, our mid-pipe mounted. We replaced our hardware up here for the clamp, tighten that down, and then we tighten down the V-band clamp. And as you can see, our O2 sensor wiring is dangling, wondering why did we forget about him? No, we didn't. That's the last step. So go ahead, put all of your stiffening plates and under trays back on. We'll lower the car and do the rest from the top. All right, and now I've fed my O2 sensor wires up from the bottom, and I went ahead and clipped them in to all the factory little clips that are on these heat shields. And then we're just going to slide it on. You can kind of see this one with the blue tab plugs into the connector with the blue on it. So we'll slide this, snap that in place, plug it in, and then push in the gray tab. The same for the second one. Slide it on to the mount, plug it in, and then clip it. Again, you can't really mix these up since one has 4 wires and one has 5 wires, so these won't be able to be plugged in incorrectly, but just make sure you do it the same way as before. It's the best way to do it. And then we'll put our engine cover back on. All right, so slide this on. And then there's one here, one here, one there, and one there. And it looks completely stock. There's nothing changed, obviously. And just like that, you've got your first bolt-on mod on your Gen 2 B58. And then, of course, once you get back in the car, don't forget to reactivate your air suspension. So we'll hold this button down for 7 seconds. Now, it's not going to let you set it back to the factory position until you drive away, but as long as you've got the green light on, you should be good to go. So yeah, now we've got it installed, and now that I've got a downpipe on, it probably makes sense to go like stage 2, right? And then probably get like a transmission tune or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there, but regardless, there will be more coming soon. So thank you guys for sticking around for this. Hopefully you enjoyed and this helps you out if you're installing one on your car. Otherwise, I think that's it for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.